What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Kostiw, and we have got a great episode in store for you guys. We got a lot to talk about. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've been, on kind of a hiatus lately. I've been off from, most of the week. I was down in Myrtle Beach ever since, last Wednesday. So I wasn't able to get an episode out to you guys on Friday and even last Wednesday, even when I was coming back. So I'm going to have a lot to talk about with you guys on the show today. There's been a ton of news breaking. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to cover it in all this time, but I am so glad to get a chance to cover it all now. With that being said, with it being all this news to cover, I'm definitely going to need some help on the show today. So I'm bringing back a couple people that you've seen before on the show, one more recent than the other, but the first one, I'll go with the more recent of the two. The first one is a co-host of the Peyton Priv Sports Hour, and he is currently he's playing Division III baseball at Colby College. Mr. Josh Houle, how are you doing?
Doing well. Ready to talk about what happened this past week. A lot happened, man.
Yeah, there has been a lot to happen this past week. And then also we have Mr. Graysen Mortimer, a fellow guest of the show. He's also appeared on other podcasts as well, like the Fumble Rooski podcast, to give his takes. Graysen, I'm glad to have you back on, man. I know you were over in London for a little bit. So how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I was over in London for a while. I missed it over there, but
yeah,
we're back here.
Yeah, I know.
Ready to get things going.
Yeah, I know we had talked about possibly doing a show while you're over there, but the hours were never going to match up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for those that don't know, London's 5 hours ahead of Eastern time. So yeah, it's a lot. So like if you did an episode at 7, that's midnight over there. So yeah, it's definitely a big difference. I did have jet lag. Especially going over there, that was bad, but I'm back, I'm adjusted, and it's already August, so here we are.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, the school year is coming up so quick, and I cannot handle it right now, guys. It is a lot, but we do have a lot to cover, and unfortunately, I do have to start the show off on kind of a low note, but I do want to at least pay homage to these two great individuals that unfortunately are no longer with us. Two great legends gone within a week, man. It's really sad. The first one, Bill Russell, the winningest player of all time, 11 championships with the Boston Celtics. I mean, there's not really much more to say about him. Obviously he did a ton off the court as well, was a great humanitarian, great human. Boys, what are your guys' thoughts on Bill?
Yeah, I'll hop in. Bill Russell is an absolute legend, and arguably the greatest Celtic of all time. I mean, it takes someone special to win 11 championships. I mean, that kind of success isn't really heard of, and especially in the modern era. But arguably one of the best basketball players to ever grace the game, and easily one of the best Celtics. So, when I found out the news, I was like, damn, the world just lost, a legend. So, for everything Bill has done for Boston and for the NBA and for civil rights and all that, like absolute homage to him. Rest in peace, Bill.
Absolutely. Josh, you got any words for on Bill Russell?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously we all found out this news. It was almost a shock to the system. It's not something you were thinking that's going to be happening in the next couple of months. We all know he was older, but he was one of the greatest Celtics to ever play, and just he's the reason possibly why, not even possibly, like most likely, that the Celtics were such a dynasty in their time. He got to get to know some of the best players like Larry Bird, those guys, some of the best around in the history of the league, but definitely a sad blow for Boston fans.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the craziest things is that even in his older years, he was such a mentor to guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I mean, when he passed away, they've truly, it didn't just feel like they were posting about a guy and just saying, oh, he's a fellow Celtic and everything. No, this was someone that they considered a friend, at least, by the way that they were posting about him. They considered him, to be someone that, they really admired and looked up to, and wasn't just like this folk hero to them. Like, he was really impactful in their lives. So, it really is sad to see that he's no longer with us. Unfortunately, I never, obviously I'm 21 years old, so none of us ever got to see Bill Russell when he was out there playing. We only get to see him through, black and white highlight reels. But my God, he was one of the best out there, and, rest in peace to Bill Russell. Another guy I want to pay homage to, which I, also, I was lucky enough to see this person, when they weren't playing, but when they were broadcasting, and that was the fabulous Vince Scully. I don't know about you boys. I like, what is your guys' kind of, relationship to, knowing about Vince Scully and all that stuff? Josh, I'll start with you, because I know you're a big baseball guy.
Yeah, well, when you think of like the best of all time when it comes to sports broadcasting, you think of Al Michaels, you think of Doc Emmerich with NBC, but one of them always up there, top three, Vin Scully. He just had one of the most iconic voices in the game. And if you can pull up any Dodgers highlights from even as young as I can remember, he was always a voice calling those games, and just everyone fell in love with his personality. He just had such a calm, soothing voice that everyone just fell in love with instantly, and he carried that with his whole career. And I think that the world is really going to miss him. And then his retirement was rather recent, if I'm not mistaken, too.
Yeah, back in 2016 is when he retired.
Yeah, I think everyone is going to miss him now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Graysen, I know that, I don't know exactly where you are with baseball. I know you are passionate about the Sox and everything like that, but what is your kind of opinion on, Scully and everything with him?
Yeah, no, I still very much knew who Vince Scully was. He was, easily one of the best announcers to ever grace sport. Josh mentioned a couple of great names earlier, like Al Michaels, Doc Emmerich. There's obviously, Bob Uecker, who was around for the Brewers a long time. But Vince Scully is irreplaceable. I mean, it takes a lot to go 67 years in one industry. And that's exactly what he did. Like, that's the fact that he was around that long, and, he kept going till he was the ripe old age of 88. It's just impressive. And yeah, I mean, it was a tough week for the sports world, honestly, like losing, arguably the greatest NBA player of all time, and arguably the greatest, commentator of all time. Certainly in baseball, in my opinion. So, big loss as well. And yeah, no, Vin and Bill will both be missed.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I can definitely say for sure is that Vin Scully definitely had an impact on my life. Now, I wasn't a big baseball fan. Early on, I played, probably since the time I was 5 years old is when I first started playing, but I really didn't fall in love with the game of baseball till probably about the age of 12 years old. I just didn't have like that joy for it. I went out there and I played for years, but just didn't have a joy for it. And then around 2013, ironically, the year the Red Sox have their miracle run and win the World Series was the year I decided to start, watching baseball. And I watched at the beginning in April, like I saw the magical run that they went on to win the World Series after the marathon bombing and everything that went on with that. But one thing I remember the day I first heard Vince Scully's voice, and I had to look up the date because I, wouldn't remember the exact specifics of it, but it was, I guess, April 12th, 2013. And I was watching MLB Network, and I was watching Quick Pitch with my brother. We were about to head off to school that morning. And, what they showed on the TV, it was Carlos Quentin of the San Diego Padres having a benches clearing brawl with Zach Greinke of the Dodgers. And all of a sudden you see, I hear Vince Scully's call of it as it's going on. And, obviously Vince had some great calls, and it wasn't anything that, was anything, spectacular of him, but nothing crazy, but it did catch my eye. And I went, and I just kind of caught my eye, and I just really paid attention to it. And then I went on and I heard him explain on YouTube, and there was just some sort of a connection with that. And there's something with him where he didn't just broadcast a game. He told a story each game, and he had so much knowledge of so many things. I mean, I watched this one YouTube clip of him where, all these guys on both teams were growing like big bushy beards. And he was saying like, this is becoming like a new trend you're seeing around baseball. And he goes into a full on like history lesson of like the meaning of beards. He quotes like the Bible. He goes and talks about Abraham Lincoln and the political significance of him growing a beard. He talks about, he talks about cavemen. He brings everything up in just this one thing and ties it all around to this. And I'm going like, oh my God, like the amount of knowledge that this man just like takes on and is able to give to you is incredible. I mean, one thing I remember, I heard a lot of great sports broadcasters in the past couple of days, like Colin Cowherd. I heard Bob Costas, some great guys talk about Vin Scully. And one thing I heard specifically was his call of the 9th inning of Sandy Koufax's no-hitter. And I had never heard it, but I went back and I listened to it, and it sounds like perfect. Like, I can't think of a better broadcast. And there's one line of it that stuck out to me where he goes, "There's 29,000 people in the ballpark tonight and 1 million butterflies." I can't think of a better line than that at that moment. I mean, I can't imagine what this man did for 67 years to be as spry and be as active as he is. I've come off broadcasting a doubleheader of a baseball game, and I've been winded. I can't, I'm like reaching for, anything I can at that point. I'm like, oh my God, like that was insane. This man did this for 7 decades. That's unbelievable.
Certainly. Yeah, no, it's just, I mean, the fact that, as I kind of said, it's like the fact he was able to go that long is just like proof to how passionate he was with it. And yeah, like the way, like the really special commentators that the ones that can like make a story and draw from anything. I know you guys probably aren't big into soccer, but one I would definitely recommend checking out is Ray Hudson. Guy is hilarious. Like he'll compare like something that Lionel Messi did to like something completely like way out of left field. Like those are the best commentators. And Vin Scully was certainly that.
Mm-hmm. And it never seemed like an inning, was an inning would ever cut short a Vin Scully story. Like he would go on one of his tangents and he would make it before the final out of the inning was recorded, which is pretty good. Cause I've tried to give like a little anecdote, and it always runs out, or I'm always short and I have to shorten it up or do something else. And, he always was able to time it perfectly. I mean, that's one of the great things about him. And in my opinion, if anyone was to ever compare any of your broadcasting game and say, that's Scully-esque, or that's something that Vin Scully would do, that's probably the highest honor that I think you could probably give a aspiring broadcaster.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's my opinion of that. I obviously had a lot more to say about Vin Scully, mostly just because I got to witness him for the couple of years that, he was still had in LA, and, I really adored him and everything he did there. So obviously a rest in peace to Vin Scully, and a rest in peace to Bill Russell as well. However, I do want to, dive into some of the other topics that I have on the show today for you guys. But before we do that, just quickly, in case you guys are not following Down the Wire at this point, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, as well as on YouTube and all of the streaming platforms. You can find the links to those streaming platforms in our Instagram bio at down.tothewire on Instagram. Again, at down.tothewire on Instagram. Thank you guys so much. So now to jump into things, I want to talk about the Boston Red Sox. What the heck have we been doing, guys? I mean, I don't know what to say at this point anymore. It has been kind of a train wreck recently. So we get to the MLB trade deadline, and we're approaching it, and I get the notification that Christian Vazquez has been traded to the Houston Astros. And in my mind at that time, I went, all right, this is it. We're blowing the team up. Like, I was like, all right, I felt like it was coming. Like we're falling out of the playoff race now. I guess we're blowing the whole thing up. And then that didn't happen. I'll before we address everything that went down there, though, when you guys saw Christian Vazquez get traded, what was your reaction?
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, for sure. I remember I saw this notification. I was at one of our summer league games, and I'm just thinking to myself, what are the Red Sox going to do? Catching Christian Vazquez has been our rock since his first year, I believe 2014. He's been with the organization since 2008. He was our draft pick. He's been with no one else besides the Red Sox. He's been the rock wall for that team. And I'm going through my head, and I'm like, who do we have now for catchers? Like, are we potentially going to buy into the market for another catcher later on? But obviously, with what we did, it wasn't what I was expecting. But now we have Plawecki, and then we have Wong as a second string. And I'm thinking to myself,
Reese McGuire.
Yeah. With the addition of.
Yeah.
But
so yeah, that's something we'll talk about as well, because he's an interesting addition to this team.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I found out Vasquez got traded, I was kind of in the same boat, Brian. I was just like, okay, it's obvious, we're gonna just trade a bunch of guys. Um, Again, that didn't happen. It's like the first guy I would have traded was not Christian Vasquez. It was probably JD Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're blowing the whole thing up, like trade the guy that's 34, still has value, and his contract runs out.
I mean, he's hitting 300 this year. He's an all-star.
Yeah,
I know some people have called him the worst 300 hitter probably ever, but he's hitting 300.
Yeah, like my thing would have been like sell high on someone like JD Martinez. Not, the guy who not the best hitting catcher in the American League since 2013. Like, I don't understand why we traded him when there didn't really seem to be a plan in motion to replace him.
Yeah, like, here's the thing. I really don't understand the plan that we're going with right now. If we were to sell everything off, if we sold JD off, if Evaldi was out the door, if we even said, hey, we'll take a flyer on Xander Bogaerts because at this rate, it doesn't look like we're going to re-sign him. I don't want it to be the case, but if that's the way we're going to go and we're going to go full on rebuild, then go for it. But this felt like it was kind of a half blow up where you got rid of Christian Vasquez, who, I guess we weren't going to give him the money that he would have wanted in free agency, but I would have found more value in having a quality catcher if we're trying to really make a postseason run, which is how these moves are being explained. The moves are being explained as we're trying to make a run for the postseason, but I would have found more value in keeping our catcher here than going and getting 2 minor leaguers. Now, I got to see Emmanuel Valdez recently in AAA, second AAA at bat with the Woo Sox, hits a home run. So listen, there could be some promise there, but who knows?
Yeah, the one part of this trade that really confusing me is out of all the teams that we could sell a catcher to, we sell it to a team that doesn't need another catcher. Houston Astros have Maldonado behind the plate, one of the better catchers in the league.
Yeah.
If we were going to trade Vasquez, I thought we were going to trade him to a team where they needed a catcher and we can get more worth out of, as you said, the best hitting catcher in the AL rather than just 2 prospects.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got 2 prospects, and like the thing I just don't get is the highest prospect we got is potentially ranked, I think, 12th in the Astro system in the midseason rankings, but I just don't know if that's really what we should have gotten for Christian Vasquez. I think this guy Valdez is technically ranked 29th in our system right now, but that might, have to be adjusted with some things, but a pretty low end guy, system wise, I just don't know if that's the correct move for us to make at this point.
Yeah, I'm definitely certainly on the boat of I wouldn't have traded him. I guess if you do want to look at like why we may have traded him, his contract was up at the end of this year.
Yeah,
he was only making about $4 million, which for him is a absolute bargain. I don't even know how we got him for that. Maybe that move hints that we are prioritizing Xander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers. Which again, if you wanted to show that, I would have traded JD Martinez. Because I mean, he's making something around like 16, I think, this year. And in total, if we got rid of JD, that frees up 16 million right there that you can probably tack on to either Xander or Rafi. Xander's at about 20, which I think he'll probably look for about 25, 30 if I'm, being realistic. Devers probably about the same, maybe even a bit more for him. But, we are going to have some money to spend because we are getting 16 million back from David Price this year. So maybe that move says, sorry, Christian, we can't afford you. We're just going to try to get something out of you while we can. But at the same time, it's like, why then go out and get a guy like Eric Hosmer, who, in my opinion, is a very good player. One of the better players on that Royals team in 2015. A guy that's been around for a fair bit. But my thing is, if you are trying to go out and win games, I don't understand why you trade a catcher that's batting 280 because you're not going to find that.
No, yeah. I mean, we especially we especially didn't get that because we acquired a catcher that's batting 225. So we got, the exact opposite of that.
With what, nine career home runs?
Yeah, something like that. But listen, I actually like the Eric Hosmer move, especially for the money that we got him at. Now, if he opts out, he's gone, and like we completely lost that deal. But a lot of people are saying that he will opt in because they don't think that he's going to get better money on the open market. And plus, we're not paying any of his salary. That's all coming from San Diego because they, sent him over here when the Juan Soto trade fell through. So I think there's a good chance. That that maybe could work out for us. Definitely was needed after the horrendous play at first base that we've had for not this season, the past 2 years. I mean, Bobby Dahlbeck hasn't been, anything great. And then Franchy Cordero has been a goddamn nightmare over there at first base. He has been a butcher, to say the least.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how a first baseman can throw the ball into the dugout twice in one game. Once is alarming. Twice is damn near impossible. I don't know how he does it, but he somehow finds out a way. So
even David Ortiz was a better first baseman.
David Ortiz had some great plays in the World Series. Like, I mean, my God, Josh, sorry. Yeah, I'll throw it back to you.
Oh yeah, definitely. First base is Red Sox. It's been our nightmare for 2-3 years now. It showed how desperate we were when we tried to turn Kyle Schwarber last year into our first baseman. And that didn't even go as well as we wanted to because he re-signed with the Phillies. He just wasn't a good fit at first base for the Red Sox. So taking Hosmer with San Diego paying most of the salary, we did give up a higher end prospect, but I think the risk is worth the reward here because we don't have to eat much of his contract. We didn't have to sell too many big pieces. I think if there's immediate success with Hosmer in the lineup, and we'll start to see, I think is he playing tonight? I'm not entirely sure.
He played yesterday in Kansas City, so I'd assume he'd be back in the lineup, but I haven't.
He did, yeah, because I saw him signing stuff for like young fans because he was a former Royal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he played last night. They had a whole he played last night. They had a whole ceremony for him, so it was good stuff.
Okay, so as long as they see something like immediate returns, not you say, in like 2 weeks, but by the end of the season, if you see major improvement in the Red Sox at that position, I think it's a plus.
Yeah. I mean, I think that he's going to be a great addition for us. It's just going to, shore up a lot more things. I mean, Franchy Cordero was back down in AAA, which I mean, sorry, Franchy. I think that's where you just got to stay, man. It's unfortunate, but I can't have you up here anymore, man. It's a nightmare. One thing I'll say is that I'm excited for Eric Hosmer to come over. I think he bats over like 300 when he's in Fenway Park. So even if he's not the long-term option at first base, if JD Martinez is to be out the door, you could slide him into the DH spot. And then Tristan Casas, who is one of our elite prospects, could slide into the first base spot and take that over in 2023, which I don't mind at all. I just don't get the moves that have been going on though with Chaim. I mean, not only has the moves been alarming, but Chaim personally has been kind of alarming. So he doesn't travel down to Houston to go and talk with the team. Then the entire situation with Vasquez blows up and is horrendous. I mean, not only does like the whole situation of trading him kind of suck, but he lets Vasquez go out on the field, take batting practice, and then a freaking PR person has to drag him away from the reporters as they're taking a statement from him. So it's been a freaking nightmare so far with him. I've never been a big Chaim Bloom guy because I'm just not a big fan of the whole Moneyball strategy. I just don't think that it works, frankly. I can understand that for some smaller market operations like the Tampa Bay Rays, like the Oakland Athletics, who are, usually in a tough position. Maybe you have to do that to go and get into the postseason. The Boston Red Sox do not need to do that. We are one of the premier, richest franchises in MLB history. It's the Yankees, the Dodgers, then us. I saw, I think it was on SB Nation, they compared the Red Sox saying, I think they ended up saying the Red Sox are billionaires trying to get rich playing $5 blackjack. That's kind of what's going on with us right now. I don't get why Chaim Bloom is doing this, but I mean, he thinks that there is value in these prospects, but a couple of these trades have proven to, fall flat on their face.
Yeah. I guess maybe one reason why, like, the Houston thing definitely is crazy. One reason I think we have to play a little bit of Moneyball which obviously that's Chaim Bloom style. And yeah, you can get away with it more at a team like Tampa Bay. But I think one thing that hasn't been talked about enough is Chris Sale. Like, one of our big mistakes, and I believe it was Dombrowski that signed Chris Sale's extension, was signing Chris Sale to a giant extension. Especially when we had luxury cap problems back then as well. And we still went ahead and signed Chris Sale. Now, obviously at the time we were like, okay, this guy is, one of the best pitchers in the league. And easily, we thought we found our ace. And for a good period, we did. But the thing with Chris Sale is the guy is 6'6" and 180 pounds. Like, you just look at him and he's like a twig that's ready to break. And he did. And the way he throws, it's like Tommy John was always going to be on that guy's horizon. Like, the fact that we didn't see that is insanity for me. My dad, who you just saw pass by a couple times feeding our cats, but he was even saying, like, when we signed that deal, he's like, awful, like, this is not going to work out. And I was kind of like, yeah, I agree. Like, how much longer is he going to be able to do this before his arm completely just leaves? And, come to find out 1 year into that deal, he throws out his arm and had to get Tommy John. And then he's had a slew of smaller injuries. I think was it his leg this year?
He had a rib injury this year. It
was his rib. Okay. Like his rib went out. And then I'm not going to fault the pinky, which is the one he currently has, but
that's a freak injury.
That could happen to anybody. That one I'm not going to put on him, but basically, like, you knew the guy was going to get Tommy John. But he's just like, he's a walking, injury waiting to happen. And unfortunately, there's some guys out there that are like that, but that was a huge mistake. And, is it why Chaim is playing Moneyball? Potentially not, but also it's a big factor for me. And that's another guy I'm surprised. Like, if we were doing a blow up, I would have traded him immediately. Like, yeah, retain half his salary and you're still saving yourself like $15 million that you can spend on either another pitcher or your 2 star players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just don't get what's been going on, though. I mean, I can understand, playing it to an extent. I think that, we were in a bad cap situation with Mookie Betts. And while I would have wanted the Red Sox to, keep him around town, with the way it was coming out, if we put all our eggs into the Mookie Betts basket, Rafael Devers, Xander Bogaerts, they were all going to be gone. What I don't get is that now they could also just be gone, even though we didn't give him that contract. That's what bugs me. If we were going to trade away Mookie Betts, who is, probably the best prospect that we've seen come up through our system in years, then we can't just like not capitalize and sign these other big players. We need to go out there and we need to make a presence and actually bring them back in. It needs to have been worth it to have let Mookie Betts go away. But it's so far, Chaim Bloom, I don't know if he's been lowballing him or if, he's just not an approachable guy. I just don't know what is up with him, but people do not seem to like him right now. There is a lot of division going on in that clubhouse. Yeah. I mean, listen, one thing at least I'll say though, I was listening to 98.5 The Sports Hub the other day, and one of the things that I heard potentially as something the Red Sox could do, and I guess Alex Cora, when Brad Stevens took over the president of basketball operations for the Celtics, he said that it was something he was very interesting to him that someone could do that. And in my opinion, if Alex Cora would seriously entertain going up and taking over the front office position, I think that would be in the best interest of the Boston Red Sox at this time. I think that, the players like him, unlike Chaim Bloom, who just does not seem to be approachable whatsoever at this point. So I think if, Alex Cora goes up there and, runs the operation, not only is it going to keep the people in the clubhouse happy, but it's also going to also going to get, potential free agents to say, hey, Alex Cora seems to be this really lovable guy. Let me come over to Boston and sign with him. And obviously, taking Alex Cora out of the dugout is a major hole to fill. So there are a couple guys I was thinking as potential replacements. One guy is in-house. It's Jason Varitek. People have been, tabbing him as a potential managerial replacement for some time now. I think Tech could be great at the job, but if you don't want to do it and you want to get someone with experience, I would say look at another players guide that might be flaming out with an organization that is not entirely his fault. And that man is David Ross. He's, the Chicago Cubs are in a tough position right now. David Ross does not really have a good roster around him. And I think, the Cubs, like any other team that's, losing, to basically kind of remedy the situation, you're going to fire your manager, get a new voice in there and see if that fixes some things. So I think if David Ross was to become available, getting him in Boston as well could be a great option.
Yeah, David Ross is one of those lovable guys. 2013, I remember they nicknamed his beard the Wolf because he was one of the older guys on that team. I think he was one that caught Cody's final inning against the Cardinals. I just remember watching a documentary on that whole championship series. I'm like, David Ross is such a likable guy. And just the whole city of Boston fell in love with him. And it's sad to see him struggling with Chicago, but last year they just blew up their entire roster at the trade deadline.
Yeah,
it was Rizzo.
It's not really his fault.
Baez. No, it's not. He was given nothing. And what he did have last year was just stripped away from him completely. He's being forced to build from the ground up. And I think that's an unfair disadvantage for him. Yeah. And they're not going to see the immediate returns. And I think what you said is that he might be entering his final years with the Cubs.
Yeah. So that would be something I'd like to see be entertained. Alex Cora goes over and takes over Chaim Bloom's position. And then, Tech or, Rossi goes over and takes the managerial spot in Boston. I would like that a lot. I'd like to get another catcher back in the door because frankly, the one we got in the door seems to have some issues here, boys. Reese McGuire, everyone. What a guy.
Yeah, I was reading about him, and I saw what the controversy he had a while ago was, and I was like, oh,
yeah. In case you missed it, Reese McGuire in 2020 was caught pleasuring himself in a parking lot of idolatry, if anything, to say the least. So, I don't know why he did this, but I would say, I think Reese should drop the first name. I think he should take a page out of a, great New York Mets book, great New York Mets player, and just go by Tug McGuire. I like it. I think it'd be very fitting for the guy. I think it'd be just a great, little change of scenery for him. That's all I have to say about him. But, I don't get that move either. I mean, he's batting like 225. He's a kind of a pull guy. That trade, from what I heard, was more of a we need bodies kind of move. It wasn't like, oh, we're really seeing the value in Reese McGuire. No matter way Chaim Bloom's really trying to spin it, it's more kind of a, hey, we just traded away our starting catcher. We need a new starting catcher. So we're going to go out and we're going to get this guy because he's cheap. Like that was kind of the idea of it. So I would say that that's probably the idea of what we're doing there. But boys, I got to be honest with you. I don't know what's happened with the Boston Red Sox. This is not the Boston Red Sox that I grew up watching and, loving for all these years. For a lot of years, we were in a lot of these free agent runs and, making moves at the deadline. I remember back in 2013, we had a rebuilding team. We blew it up after 2012. Adrian Gonzalez was sent out the door and everyone else was gone at this point. But we were in first place in the American East, not the America East. That's Bryant. But we were in first place in the AL East. And, what does Ben Sherrington go out and do? He acquires Jake Peavy, who was like the premier pitcher on the market at that point, and he helped us get over the top and win a World Series. Like, we were able to go out there and make moves that we felt could really benefit the ball club. I'll give Chaim Bloom credit. Kyle Schwarber, there was a lot of things up in the air about him. I think had he not been injured in the month of June, he would not have been going to the Boston Red Sox because we wouldn't have been able to get him for as cheap as we got him. I think we traded our 19th prospect in our organization for him. So we got him on kind of a cheap-ish kind of deal there. But a lot of these moves I just don't get. Obviously, in case you guys missed it, Jackie Bradley Jr. was just released. That was we have reacquired JBJ in the Hunter Renfroe trade. We sent Hunter Renfroe off to the Milwaukee Brewers in exchange for Jackie Bradley Jr. and then two minor leaguers. I believe it was Alex Benelis and then David Hamilton, two guys that are with the Portland Sea Dogs right now and are not doing well. So that's a trade that hasn't really looked well. The Mookie Betts trade where, Alex Verdugo could be a borderline all-star. Jeter Downs, has been struggling lately. And then Connor Wong maybe is a backup catcher. Like that, like a lot of these moves that Chaim Bloom has been making have not worked out well. And then we get to the great blunder of all for Chaim Bloom, Franchi Cordero, Josh Winkowski for Andrew Benintendi. I don't get it.
Yeah, I can. I'll talk a little bit about that. So, my thing last year is Bloom actually did make a couple decent signings. Kike Hernandez, great player. We've kind of missed him this year. He's been injured for a while, but we don't make a playoff run like we do last year without Kike Hernandez. Great signing. Hunter Renfroe, great signing. And I'm not even going to put the Betts trade too much against him. I think Betts wanted to leave. And I think Bloom was like, okay, this guy doesn't want to be here. Can
I just say one thing? He didn't want to be there because we pushed him out the door, but go on.
It's possible. Yes. But at the same time, it's like, how much were we willing to give a guy a 10-year deal? With the position we were in, with the money we had, with the fact that probably in the backs of our minds, it's like, okay, we also got Xander Bogaerts and Rafi Devers. And then we signed Chris Sale for this awful deal that I was, given. I don't think we could afford Betts personally. Like with everything that kind of, played there, I'm not going to fault Bloom too much for that. And, obviously Jeter Downs is awful and, Wong hasn't really done much, but, Verdugo is a decent enough player. Is he Betts? Absolutely not. But, he's good enough, to kind of have other guys fill that void a little bit hitting wise. But Verdugo is still a great fielder. And he's good enough with the bat. He's going to be probably a career 270 hitter, which, for obviously Mookie Betts is an all-star, but it was about what you could get for him on a 1-year deal. So, because the Dodgers instantly, had the money and extended him. But, then we go out and get Renfroe. Renfroe is a phenomenal season. Bats 30 home runs. Bats hits about 260. That trade made me angry. I was livid after we traded Renfroe for JBJ because I knew JBJ. If it came down to my life and JBJ swinging a bat, I'd be dead.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like I am finished. Like if my life came down to JBJ hitting something, I would be like, oh no, nice knowing you guys. Like
I'd be counting my prayers and telling my family I love them. And he's not even really that kind of a fielder anymore either at this point. I mean, he's still a decent fielder, but nothing close to what he was.
He didn't have those world beating plays this year that kept them relevant. I was all for him winning the Gold Glove a couple of years ago because he was that good at fielding. I was like, okay, well, obviously he can't hit, but at least he's making plays out in the field. He's not doing that anymore. So, cutting him is probably the right decision, and I mean, just that trade made no sense. And then, Vasquez, we already talked about. So it's just like, I don't know what direction this team has. And then Benintendi for Franchi Cordero is another one that just why
might
like
be
at least Winkowski's okay. At least Winkowski's fine, but like, he's had a couple, he's been in our rotation, which has had injuries this year. So he's stepped up a little bit, but
yeah,
Franchi Cordero, I mean, oh my God, what were we thinking there?
I mean, listen, the one thing I'll say is that, Juan Soto was on the trade market. And I'm not expecting the Red Sox to go out there and at this point, make a move for Juan Soto. We're not in the playoff running right now. And, to make a move like that would be really drastic. And it would be like, whoa, this is crazy out of left field. We're going for it here. But do you even think that Chaim Bloom even expressed interest in Juan Soto? I don't think he ever, even picked up the phone. I wouldn't expect him to, especially in the situation we're in right now when we're trying to sign guys like this. But when you're one of these big teams, when you're like the Yankees, like the Dodgers, you're supposed to pick up the phone. And that's what bugs me. I mean, Juan Soto, he's going to the San Diego Padres. That's a great deal for him. But we should be killing the San Diego Padres right now. The San Diego Padres shouldn't be the Boston Red Sox. Like, we should be the Boston Red Sox and they should be the San Diego Padres. And if we want something, we'll go get that player from them. Kind of like how we got Craig Kimbrell from the Padres. We saw a great closer and we needed a championship, team. We went out there and we acquired Craig Kimbrell literally from the Padres. But now, the Padres are going out there and they're making these big moves. It's pretty surprising because, traditionally the Padres are a smaller market team. So a lot has changed. And I think that the Red Sox, it's just not great that they're, they have these deep pockets and they're not using them, which really is unfortunate to me.
Yeah, it feels like every step that Bloom takes forward for the organization, he takes about 4 back for every good thing he does. Mm-hmm. It's just sad to see like the potential that we can have with the market we have.
Yeah. In my opinion right now, I don't think I've ever been more worried about the Red Sox than I have been right now. I mean, they've been in some bad situations. They've blown it up like they did in 2014. They've blown it up before, but I just don't know where we're going right now. And that's the scariest thing to say, because, are they not going to see the value in Rafi Devers and say, oh, we could just develop another guy in our minor league system? Oh, Xander Bogaerts, his stats say that we could actually find a guy for $2 million on the open market and he could go bye-bye. Like, I don't know what it's going to look like in a couple of years. I mean, I saw that there was potential interest that the Red Sox were going to sign Brett Phillips to a contract. And listen, Brett Phillips was great in 2020. And I think he's a great personality, great guy. If Chaim Bloom does that, it's literally just the perfect exclamation point of just saying, I am building the Tampa Bay Rays here in Boston. It does not matter. I am doing it here. And listen, man, I get that you want to do it, but you have some pockets. Call up John Henry and say, I want to spend some money. That's all. That's what I have to say there. But we've talked about baseball for a long time, boys. I want to jump over to the NFL and talk about 2 prominent things going on over there. First things first, we were talking about, some pretty controversial things going on with Reese McGuire and some of his, antics, to say the least. But now we get to talk about, the king of these antics going on in the NFL. That is Deshaun Watson. A private investigator came to a conclusion recently. They said that Deshaun Watson would receive a 6-game suspension. However, the NFL has now appealed that, and they are seeking a year-long suspension for Watson. For those of you guys who did not know, Watson did not play in 2021. He was not officially suspended by the team, but he did not end up playing for the Texans, was then subsequently traded to the Cleveland Browns. Josh, I'll start with you because I know you haven't talked in a while. When you heard about 6 games for Deshaun Watson, first word that came to your mind?
Wow. Cheap. Short. But the funny thing is, I was reading this the other day, but this is a little fun tidbit to segue into it. The National Physical Therapists, it's like a big convention, is being held in Cleveland this weekend.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I read that. I'm like, wow.
You can't even, like, the jokes write themselves.
You can't make this up.
No shot. Oh my God. Lock that man in his dorm, in his apartment. Do not let him go. Oh my God.
Yeah. Like, it was on NFL memes. Like, they posted a whole thing about it, and I was like that.
I looked into it. It's a real thing.
That's wrong.
It wasn't a joke.
Yeah.
No, it's like an actual thing. Like, it's happening in Cleveland.
We're gonna that the lights are gonna come down at whatever conference like they're holding there and whatever venue, and now it's gonna walk Deshaun Watson. He's gonna say, "Hello, I'm the CEO of all this. Welcome to my show."
Yeah,
yeah. What a freaking nightmare. Graysen, your thoughts?
All right, where do I start? So I'll make a couple points here. The first one is one, I think he's guilty as sin. The fact that over 20 women have come out and said, like, yeah, he asked us to do this. It's not even just 20 women though. It's 20 women in the same job. Like, the fact that this guy was bouncing around, different therapists, it's like, that's a little suspicious. And so there's that. But the fact that they only gave him 6 games is, ridiculous. Like, for once, I'm with the NFL on this. Like, I think it should be at least a year. And I saw that his case was, trying to use Roethlisberger, but, the NFL fungoed that. He should have been suspended a year. So Yeah, but then the other thing, it's like, why give Calvin Ridley, a year for betting on a game that he wasn't even involved with, and then give a guy who, has over 20 women like saying like, yeah, he asked me to touch him somewhere. That's worth $6K. Like that doesn't make any sense.
The thing that angers me the most, Calvin Ridley bet on his own team. He's not betting against them. He's betting on his teammates, his brothers, to do well. And it wasn't a groundbreaking. It was what, $1,500 that he bet on it.
It was some small number.
Yeah, nothing crazy, and that's a whole year.
Yeah, he wasn't, Pete Rose and saying like, oh yeah, my team's gonna lose, let's throw it. No, it was, yeah, I'm backing us to win. Like, I thought it was a game he wasn't in, but yeah, the fact that he's betting on the Falcons to win, it's like,
well, injured. And
like he's backing his guys to go out there and put in a performance, and that's worth a year-long suspension. Like the fact that it's only 2 games off of Tom Brady's suspension for deflating a football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and what's worse, Tom Brady deflating footballs, or a guy who went around different places and had different types of massages. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I think you should get banned the whole year. That's just me.
I mean, don't forget that Greg Hardy, who, literally beat up his girlfriend, also got a 4-game suspension, same number as Tom Brady, which in my mind,
Ray Rice got 2.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, I just that blew my mind. I think something that we still forget about is this man had 24 women accuse him, and these were all massage therapists. I don't know about you. How many massage therapists do you need? Like, in general,
that's kind of what I'm saying. Like earlier, like the same job, they're all in the same profession.
Because listen, I've heard the stories about Wilt Chamberlain. I know he's like, I've heard those. I mean, you want to talk about stats like that, like, yeah, people talk about Bill Russell. Like, that was insane. What Wilt Chamberlain was putting up. But listen, like, I could understand if Deshaun Watson, had arrangements with all these different like ladies and was like sleeping around doing all this stuff. But you need 24 to like, and possibly more massage therapists.
I think it's like 26 or 27 now.
Like, you need close to 30 massage therapists. One isn't going to cut it for you. Like, oh my God.
How do you even know 30 massage therapists that you can just call up?
I don't even know. Like, I don't even know half the people that were on our team this year, Josh. I'm joking, of course. No, but no, I like, if you told me to like name 30 people I know, I mean, I could get it out, but I'd be like, shoot. Like, yeah. I don't know. Like
26, 27, you're struggling, like,
yeah, it's just like, if you told me to name 30, I don't know. If you told me to name 30 people like that I've worked with over the course of my life, I'd be like, oh shoot, I really don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, if you told me to name 30 people that, are like doctors or people that I've like, had as like physicians or something like that, I haven't had that many people, but I couldn't name all of them. Like, that's insane. Like, but 30 people
in the course of 1 year.
Yeah. Like this man wasn't even injured. Like,
that's more than once every other week that he met with a different massage therapist.
Like, Alex Smith almost like got his leg almost amputated. I think he just I'm pretty sure he just trained with the Army. I think that's what he did to rehab. He didn't have to go to the massage therapist like retreat and go recruit a whole roster of them. I mean, he almost had a football team of massage therapists.
He had a whole starting lineup.
Yeah, he had an offense and defense, and then eight people to swing off the bench. Like, yeah, that's insane.
Yeah,
it's definitely something that you can look at that and you're like, how do you someone like that? Like,
actually, you could put together a football game of all the people that have accused Deshaun Watson of this stuff.
With substitute.
Yeah, with subs.
You can have any form of the major sports teams. You can have enough players that you can actually play a full game.
Like, that's insane. Like, I don't understand it. Like, I mean, I saw the news come down and I thought it was going to be somewhere low. I mean, I'm just used to the NFL lowballing these suspensions at this point, frankly. I mean, I just am so used to them butchering this stuff. But then I did learn that this was through an independent judge. I know it was a female judge who came up with the decision. And, the NFL, I guess, I saw one reporter on ESPN saying that they didn't want to have to appeal the suspension because then they were going to seem like bullies against a female judge. That's what this ESPN reporter said. I just don't know now. I mean, I think that the NFL probably, I think after getting 6 games and people were tweeting out and just saying, oh my God, I can't believe the NFL, decided that this was okay. I think for them at this point, they were just going, okay, we didn't even decide the suspension this time and we're getting blowback. All right, now we have to appeal just for our own sake. So, maybe the NFL will get the year that they want. Chances are they won't. I think that from what I've seen, they want to avoid Deshaun playing. I think it's week 12 that game is against Houston. So they're trying to avoid that at all costs.
My major question,
he would get slandered.
Mm-hmm. Well, not just slander, but that's the benchmark, because not only will he have all the accusations and stuff behind him, but he'll be going back into Houston and playing that. There's going to be a lot of animosity there just in general. Yeah. So they won't not allow that right now. They're not going to, play with that. So I think they're at least going to push for maybe 12 games. It is maybe what it will end up as, but this thing has been ridiculous. I mean, it's been absolutely ridiculous what's gone on with this.
Yeah.
If you guys have to guess, though, what do you think the final suspension will be? Josh, I'll go with you.
I definitely don't think it's going to stay with 6. I don't know how the NFL handles suspensions that well, because I know it feels like they just throw a number at the dartboard and whatever it lands on, that's the suspension that they give. But if this judge's like suspension of 6 games, that's like her opinion on how much he should be suspended, right? It's more of an opinion based than official.
I think so. Yeah.
If that case, then the NFL has the power. I think this is going to be more of a power that people. I think they're definitely going to give him at least 10, maybe to get to that 12 mark. I don't think it's going to be a full season because Deshaun's been pleading innocent since day one. You're going to have people on both sides. So I think if you do a longer suspension without the entirety of the year, I think 10 to 12 is going to be the final.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I looked it up. Roethlisberger had a 6-game suspension, and then it got moved down to 4. I don't think it's not going to get moved down.
It will not get moved down. I think we can say that confidently right now. It will not get moved down.
But that's because it was done. The NFLPA stepped in, and it was because the NFL did the suspension. It wasn't done independently because the NFL is appealing. It's either going to stay at 6 or it's going to go up. Graysen, I don't think I heard you. Did you give a response for what you think?
I haven't given a number yet.
Right. What do you think it will be?
I hope it's the season. That's maybe wishful thinking. I think it will be at least 10. But I actually think that they may have a strong case to get it to 12 or longer. Mm-hmm. Obviously he missed last year, but that was more voluntary for him in Houston. I think he'll get at least 12, if not the full season.
Yeah, I think it's going to probably be around 10. I think that's my guess as to where it's going to end up, 10 to 12. But I'm leaning more 10. I think that they'll add 4 games on and, do something like that. And I don't know if it's not week suspension. It is games, correct? So the bye week doesn't factor.
Bye week does not affect the suspension.
Okay. Yeah. I'd probably say it'd be 10 games. I don't know when Houston's bye week or when Cleveland's bye week is. So I think it'll be around maybe 10 games is my best guess. Now, Graysen, I heard you were texting with me last night, and you ended up saying that you were seeing a lot of like Deshaun Watson supporters, and a lot of people were coming to his side. I necessarily haven't seen that, but what is your take on that?
Yeah, I have seen it a little bit. Some people are like, oh, innocent until proven guilty. I have seen that a little bit. Not overall, I would say it's mostly like people saying like, no, he should get, dinged for this. But no, there have been some people like saying that, nah, he's innocent. I'm like, well, 20 women, as we kind of were going over, it's like the fact that it was 20 different like massage therapists, which is kind of a niche profession. It's like, I think that says something. The fact that many came out, because I remember when the story first came out,
free my man, he didn't do anything.
When it was just one, I was like, okay, well, maybe it's a little suspicious, but I didn't really think much of it. Because from what I heard from the initial one, when it was like the first one that came out, was he went in, asked her to do something, and then she said, no, please leave. And he did. And he left. And I was like, okay, well, Was it weird? Yeah. Did he listen to the therapist? Yes. But then when all of them and more started coming out, like saying like, oh yeah, no, he did this too. You're kind of like, okay, well, I think something's up here. So that's kind of hi Rambo. Yeah. My cat he's been loud for the whole time I've been down here.
Good.
Yeah, it's great. But anyways, so yeah, it's basically just like what if there's that many coming out, it's like, come on, he's guilty. Like he did something.
I mean, Bob Kraft had one. I think it was one accusation against him, and that became a whole firestorm.
Well, that one I think the difference between that one and Deshaun Watson, I think that one I think a lot of people saw that happen.
Yeah, and I think that's what that place I think traditionally is. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I just don't. I agree with you. When it was like one case, it was like, all right, like we'll have to see how this ends up in the courts. Maybe there is something here and we can go. But it does become a case when it is like 20 people. Now, I mean, Deshaun Watson is a popular guy, so is there a chance there could be a grand conspiracy to take a guy down? I mean, there's always a possibility, but like, I mean, just for it to be like all in one profession, though, it's not like it was like a bunch of women in like different professions. And one person was like, oh, I worked at Subway and this happened to me. And it's, or it was like, oh, I'm a school teacher and this happened. It was like, not, we actually all went to the same school. We're actually we actually all went to the same massage therapy school, and this all happened to us. So it was like, yeah, this is just a little sketchy. Like that's where it became a lot. It's not like it was people all over the country, filing in reports and saying that. It was all like very localized, which is what it became an issue.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the thing for me. If it was like, even if it was like one, and then, a bunch of the other cases were, they didn't really have a lot of substance, you could have made a case and been like, oh, these are people trying to, get in on it. Like you hear a lot about like copycats and stuff like that, which is, unfortunate that this stuff happens. But, when this really, cat, as Graysen shows a cat to me over the Zoom call. But as this stuff happens, it's like, like when you hear about the details and they're all very, very similar, it's like, yeah, there's something that's up here. So obviously that's something that, is ridiculous. I don't know what the final suspension will be. We gave our opinions, but the final topic that we're going to jump over into in NFL news tonight, I'll actually relay it back to the Deshaun Watson point, to the Deshaun Watson case at one point, and how the NFL will probably use this in a sense going forward. But the Miami Dolphins, the Fins have not been so up, boys. It has not been looking good for the Miami Dolphins lately. They were actually stripped of their first-round pick in 2023 and a third-round pick in 2024 for tampering violations. Stephen Ross, who is the owner of the Dolphins, has been suspended through October 17th, and he has been fined $1.5 million. When I first saw this news come out, I thought it was about one thing and one thing only. I thought it was about Brian Flores saying, listen, the Dolphins told me to lose games. And I was like, wow, like this is a bombshell. Everything is crazy here. Apparently, it wasn't about that. There was actually no proof in the Dolphins trying to intentionally lose games. There was a 6-month-long investigation. They couldn't find anything. So that whole story fell apart. Maybe there was something going on, and maybe that could come up to light in, a couple months or something like that. But they said they haven't found anything. What this is about, though, is tampering involving quarterback Tom Brady and head coach Sean Payton. So the Dolphins reached out to Tom Brady in August of 2019, his last season with the Patriots. Graysen, you and I in August of 2019 were moving into our freshman year at Bryant.
Yep.
Like, I mean, I remember where I was in August of 2019 and getting ready for that Patriots season. We were coming off Super Bowl 53. Antonio Brown was just about to sign with us and make that season even crazier. I remember when Antonio Brown signed with us, man. I was getting ready to go to Bryant Bingo. And Graysen, I know for you.
Yeah, I remember that. That's
Were you
right.
in that with me? Were you in that with me?
Yeah, I think I was, because I remember it was you, me, and I think Chris Condon was there.
Okay.
He was like, Antonio Brown signed for the Patriots. He was so excited.
No, yeah, I remember. Chris actually works with me now. Chris actually works with me now with the Worcester Red Sox. So I saw him the first day there,
I've been seeing his stories and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, but he was so excited like when that happened. My reaction was quite different. I was like, I'll give him 4 games.
I didn't even make.
He got one. He got
He
one, and he had a touchdown against Miami.
Yeah, no, he did.
And,
he did great for us. But yeah, so I mean, I remember exactly, the idea of where we were at after Super Bowl 53. I personally thought that Tom Brady was, a solid quarterback still, but I thought that, Super Bowl 53 was essentially going to be his swan song, and that was going to be, the last. And it was a great, in my opinion, I thought it was a great final chapter in the Tom Brady book to where, he came in the league against the Rams and, won that Super Bowl. And now he's going to go out against the Rams. And, I thought this final year was going to be something. And if he went to another team, I was going to compare it to when Joe Montana went to the Chiefs. I thought that if Tom Brady was to go to another team like he went to the Bucs, my prediction was the furthest he would get would maybe be an NFC Championship game. And then, that would be it for him.
Went on, won a Super Bowl, no big deal.
Yeah, just went on to go win another Super Bowl and, faked a retirement and is now back. But, now 3 years ago, 42-year-old Tom Brady at the time was in contact with the Miami Dolphins. He was in contact then, and then they also contacted him again in 2021 during his time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they've been in contact with Tom Brady for multiple times now. As a Pats fan, it really just hurts to see. I mean, I understand that tampering is something that is probably more normalized than any of us could ever think of it being in the NFL. But to see a guy like Brady go and talk with a division rival, it was not even like the Bucs had reached out to him at the time. The fact that it was the Dolphins of all teams that he was willing to go and possibly suit up for, that just hurts, man. I mean, listen, he's done so much for us. And when he left, I could be nothing but appreciative. But if he had gone to the Dolphins, I think I'd be singing a different tune.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of on the same boat there. Like when he left, I was like, thank you, Tom Brady, gave us 20 years, 6 Super Bowls, like, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. Well, at this point, I don't think it's arguably. But when he left for the Bucs, I'm like, okay, well, he went to the NFC. We'll see him once, which happened after he won the Super Bowl. But I mean, it was a great way to see him go. It hurt, and some Pats fans are still mad about it. But if he went to the Dolphins, I mean, he would have, he probably would have lost 75-80% of our fan base.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
It would have been higher than it was when he left to go to the Bucs.
100%. I think
it would have been over half.
Yeah,
it would have been well over half.
Because
if he went to the Dolphins,
a lot of bridges would have been burnt with that.
Yes. Me included, but like right now I'm still, it hurts, but he didn't go to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that happened, it was just like, damn, like, was his relationship with Bill that bad? Like,
yeah. I mean, it makes you wonder, Josh, does this change your opinion of Tom Brady anymore at all?
I knew after that season ending 2020, I knew Tom wasn't done, but I think his time with New England was coming to a close. So I definitely think if you're in your last year, you kind of want to do some shopping on the side. You're not going to try and break rules, obviously, but it's kind of funny that only the teams can get punished for the tampering, but the players can kind of get away with it scotch-free. I'm not saying Brady should be punished for it at all, but I definitely did expect him. He was going to be a free agent, so he was going to go talk to teams anyway. It's only weird that Miami tried to do it, 4 months ahead of schedule, trying to get a jump on everyone else. They couldn't wait till March. It's kind of funny that he didn't choose them because I think, how was the story? I think Brian Flores saw Brady get on the boat and he's like, I can't talk to Brady, and he left, which I think was the smartest thing he did as their coach.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Brian Flores has been a great coach for the Dolphins, and I'm great that he got a coaching job at Pittsburgh after all the crap he went through in Miami.
Yeah.
But I think Miami, even though they look better, I think that whole organization in shambles after that, because everyone's going to see Miami's now as more fraudulent, breaking the rules, that kind of thing. It's not that little competitive underdog that everyone's cheering for. They're like, oh wait, these guys are just as bad as everyone else.
Yeah, for once it's not us.
Yeah, it's not us anymore. It's another AFC East team, which is great. In my opinion, one of the things that looking back on it, a lot of signs would have pointed for Tom Brady to go to Miami. I mean, now hindsight is 2020, he goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, first season there, revitalizes, what we thought was left of his career and, wins his 7th Super Bowl. But think about it at the time where people were go back to 2020 and think about, what people were expecting Tom Brady to do. Los Angeles was on the table. Dallas was on the table. Even Tennessee was on the table. But
San Francisco, I think, was there too.
Yeah, San Francisco was in the market too for him to go home. But the idea for Brady at the time, that people thought Brady was going to do at the time was, to go and sink his interest into a new market. And in my opinion, Miami is one of the premier markets to go at. So, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you're still in Florida, but you're traditionally not a losing franchise, because Miami has been a losing franchise for the past couple of years, but you are one of the just absolute worst franchises in the NFL, maybe even worse than the Cleveland Browns. Like, you are traditionally as bad as they come. I mean, you had the Super Bowl in 2002, but you're not a good team. Like, they have been a miserable franchise. So when people saw that Brady was going to the Bucs, it was like a real shock to a lot of people. Obviously, now it was probably his greatest move that he was able to make, but it shocked a lot of people. Miami would have made a lot of sense for him at the time, especially with the guys that he could have gotten, down there. Obviously, I think Rob Gronkowski would have become a Dolphin, and a lot of things would have looked different there. But my God, I don't know how he didn't choose Miami, though. That is one of the craziest things.
I think the biggest question was the coach connection. If Flores was the coach down at Miami, I think Brady wanted to prove that he didn't need anyone that ever spent time with the Patriots to be successful.
Yeah.
Bruce Arians is one of those guys, even though I think they haven't had the smoothest relationship. They made it work, though. He would be able to prove his point that I don't need anything from the Patriots whatsoever. Besides Gronk. That's it, essentially.
Yeah.
Other than that, he was able to do it by himself. Arians let him run the team.
Yeah, and getting to that, though, I mean, that leads us into the next part of the tampering charge, which is the fact that Sean Payton has also been mentioned as a potential, was mentioned in this report too. I believe they reached out to him after during the 2021 season, as well as a potential guy to come in and take over the head coaching operation there, to where, he was still with the Saints at the time. Now Sean Payton is coaching, or not coaching, but he's
broadcasting, I believe, right?
He's broadcasting with Fox Sports, so he's over with them now. So, he's doing work over with them now. But, a pairing of Sean Payton and Tom Brady definitely would be interesting. I know that there was talks, when Drew Brees was going to be heading out the door, that Brady could have gone to the Saints. I know there were talks with that. So to see that whole development, that would have been definitely a very interesting pairing. I mean, I think, 100% a more, definitely a better coaching pairing than Bruce Arians and Tom Brady. I think Brady carried Arians through all of that. So I think if you put Sean Payton with Tom Brady on a team in Miami with that market, you get a lot of free agents down there saying, hey, I could go win a Super Bowl with Tom Brady, have my legacy etched forever. I think that could have been deadly. And I'm glad that that did not have to become a part of NFL lore.
I think the one thing that I found funny is when you look at Brady's record against the NFC South, excluding the playoffs, his one kryptonite is the Saints. In the 2 years he's been with the Bucs, he's 1-3 against the Saints. One of those losses was to Taysom Hill as quarterback.
Yeah.
Just I remember watching, I'm staring at halfway through the third, and I'm like, this is the most painful game it was worse than Super Bowl 53 from an offensive standpoint.
Josh, I'm gonna take a quote out of our old baseball coach's book, Coach Nozell. I'm gonna say Taysom Hill is a quarterback, and I use that term lightly.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say that about Taysom Hill. Quarterback is in air quotes next to his name. Yeah.
He plays an effective role in what he does as a utility player, but him as a starting QB is no. And honestly, I mean, not to go completely off topic, but I think that's what Cam Newton should do. But that's just me.
I think he'd be good at it, but I think he
wouldn't do it. But that's what he should do.
Yeah.
That's what he should do.
2021, Sean Payton. If your quarterback room is Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill is your 2, and Trevor Siemian, I can see why he's talking about
Simeon's awful.
Simeon's a story that we can save this for a whole nother time. That I could just rant about Trevor Siemian.
I remember when Peyton Manning got hurt for the Denver Broncos, and then there were talks that Brock Osweiler was the quarterback, and then he got knocked out for like a play, and I saw Trevor Siemian come in, and I was like greasing my palms. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, we're going to beat up on the Broncos now. And then Osweiler comes back in and beats us. But, like Trevor Siemian, man, that is a story with that guy. Oh my God.
I think Osweiler wasn't as bad as people said he was. He just didn't have the best support around him, and that's why he's out of the league now. Whereas Siemian, he had all the pressure on him. He was drafted. Was he drafted at first? No, I'm thinking Paxton Lynch.
Yeah.
But
frankly, I'll actually give it to Trevor Siemian. He's better than Paxton Lynch.
Oh yeah, 100%. But any QB that's come through the Broncos system, excluding Russell Wilson, he found success in Seattle. He's bringing it to Denver. But any QB that the Denver Broncos have tried to grow domestically has failed terribly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most recently Drew Lock. Yeah, Bridgewater was okay.
He wasn't domestically grown.
No, he wasn't. He was more of just I went to Denver, but now Drew Lock has been awful.
No, ever since, actually, even with Elway, they've had to acquire the quarterbacks via trade. They've really never been able to have a quarterback that they've really grown on their own. John Elway was a product of the Baltimore Colts. So like they've really never had a quarterback that they've been able to never really had.
Does Tim Tebow count?
No. Because Tim Tebow was statistically a terrible quarterback.
Oh, I know.
He was a great story, but statistically he was awful. Like,
yeah, Tebow, I will reach my arm all the way out here and throw the ball.
Yeah, no, he was always a nightmare. Yeah, listen, inspiration, loved him. Florida Gators for life. But no, the Miami Dolphins could have been a very different story. And I know I have a Dolphins fan that I've had on the show before, Sean Howe. He's wondering about what this team could have looked like. Now, with them losing the 2023 first round pick and 24 third round pick, it's definitely going to hurt this team. They have been a team that's been on the rise for some time now. Tyreek Hill, now being on this squad is going to really, I think, Tyreek Hill, especially Jalen Waddle, that's going to really affect this team. But, the major issue with the Dolphins is still Tua Tagovailoa. Like, that is the issue. Like, I don't know. Like, in your guys' opinion, is Tua going to be able to, is he going to be able to step it up this year and be that guy?
No.
No shot. Am I
No.
Whoever does the Instagram, like the social media for the Dolphins, is like setting Tua up for failure. Like, I'm pretty sure you guys have seen this. The video of him throwing to Tyreek, he underthrows it by about 15 yards. I don't think Tua is as bad as people are saying just based off that one. I think he's serviceable. They're building around him with the roster that they have. They have a good line. They had that elite receiver. They have a good tight end in Gesicki. I think the Dolphins are getting overhyped because of Tyreek Hill, but I don't think Tua is going to be their guy to push them to the next level.
Miami is a quarterback away from like having a Super Bowl caliber roster.
Sure. 100%.
So.
Like if they weren't stupid and drafted Justin Herbert instead of Tua, Miami could easily, they'd beat us this year. Like there's I don't think they'd beat Buffalo. They wouldn't beat Buffalo, but they would. Maybe that's the Bills, my second team fan bias talking, but they wouldn't beat Buffalo, but they would easily beat us for second in the AFC East. Come on, we don't have Justin Herbert, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like we don't have that type of offense, and even Gesicki's probably on par or maybe even slightly worse than Hunter Henry, but still, he's good enough.
He's got the youth.
So Miami, if they drafted Justin Herbert, they would have been set this year. And then they have a decent enough defense, led by Xavier and Howard.
Yeah.
So, they would have been decent.
All right, boys, before we go, I got one last question for you. It's about it's tying in the Dolphins and everything going on there. To tie back what I was going to say about the Deshaun Watson thing and the Stephen Ross thing. I forgot that, so I just want to tie it back real quick, is that I think what will happen is if the NFLPA comes and says you're, punishing a player and you're being really harsh on them, they'd probably come back and say, but hey, we punished Stephen Ross and we're suspending him and, we gave them all these penalties. So that's going to be a counter that the NFL makes. That'll be how they go against that. But the last question I have for you guys is that with the Dolphins having this incredible team that they're having on the come up, the Bills now running the AFC East, and then the mama's boy himself, Zach Wilson, leading the New York Jets. What do you guys think? What is your guys' prediction for the Pats this year? Where are they going to finish in the AFC East?
Josh, you can go.
Josh.
I was saying you can go.
Yeah, well, I was saying they're not going to – I think the Bills have the division on lock easily. But I think if Mac Jones has improved the way that Bill Belichick has praised him during the offseason and during training camp, this week 1 matchup against Miami is going to set the tone for the whole season. And I think if we beat them at home week 1, I think we're going to finish in front of Miami. But if we lose week 1 to the Dolphins, we're finishing underneath Miami. I think both teams are going to be around the 10-7, 11-6, or maybe 9-8 mark. They're going to be within a game or two of each other. It's going to come down to their head-to-head matchups. And I remember last year, I think it was the first time the Dolphins have swept the Patriots in division play in how many years? Because how many years has it been since they swept the Patriots? Because we always won at least once under the Brady era.
We usually would win at home and lose away. That was our thing with Miami.
Right.
We could never beat them there, except for the game where Tom Brady, went completely off, and we obliterated them.
Yeah.
Other than that, we usually would lose the away game in Miami.
Right. It's a traditional split, but that home opener is going to set the tone. That's my prediction of how we're going to finish with Miami in the ranks.
Graysen, your thoughts?
Yeah, sorry, my cat was being annoying again per usual. This dude, he does not stop. He's just nonstop. He's always meowing. Like when you guys are listening to this later, you will hear him in my background. I've had to mute a few times just because he doesn't shut up. Anyways, but yeah, no, I'm kind of on the same boat as Josh. The Bills are going to run not just the AFC East, but the AFC. With the Chiefs losing Tyreek Hill, I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC. I think they'll compete with like the Raiders and the Chargers, but I think Buffalo goes about 15-2. They got Josh Allen, who is a two-way weapon and arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league. They got Diggs and Gabe Davis, who I think is going to take big strides to step up this year. And then they got Jamison Crowder from the Jets to replace Cole Beasley, which in my opinion is an upgrade. And then you got Dawson Knox, who's an absolute beast at tight end. And not to mention that Singletary towards the end of last year was scary. Like small guy, but this dude was he was running through everybody. So if he can continue that, I mean, come on, like they're just gonna win every game. And then not to mention they have 2 all-pro safeties. It's all-pro safeties, a decent defensive line. They're just a well-oiled machine at this point. But I'm kind of with Josh on the Patriots. I think if we do win that game in the opening day, I think that'll set the tone well. I think Mac has improved. And I think that the acquisition of Devontae Parker has not been talked about enough. If that guy can stay fit, he will be our wide receiver 1. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. I think his connection with Kendrick Bourne is also going to be better this year. There was definitely some promise there last year as well. And then, Jacoby Myers is always serviceable. And then, if we do have a deep threat, I think Tyquan Thornton can be that guy. I've heard good things about him coming out of camp. So I think, we have weapons, not to mention the tight ends. We have the weapons. Certainly. I think Mac has improved. I think, we're on kind of that 10-7, 11-6 type of team, but we do have a tough schedule. There are some games in there that I don't know, like the Colts at home, that's going to be a tough game. The fact that team was a quarterback away from being good and they went out and got, the guy who's like 5th all time in passing yards in Matt Ryan, for a 3rd round draft pick, mind you, like, I don't know how they pulled that off. That's a tough game. I think we play the Vikings at some point. That's a tough game.
We play the Vikings on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So that game is like, that's going to be a rough go. We play the Bills twice. Those are probably both losses. we got Cleveland. That's a win. But like we have a tough schedule. I think we got the Packers.
That's gonna be a tough game.
So like that game's gonna be awful. Even if Alan Lazard is their wide receiver one. So like we got a tough schedule. That's not to be understated. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a tough season, but I think if Mac has taken those strides, I do think we can go definitely 10-7 at the very least. Assuming we beat the Dolphins at home first and then, win a couple of those tough games. But that's about where I have us. I would say 10-7. Miami's going to be like kind of right there in the doorstep as well, around 9-8, 10-7, and then the Jets suck.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think enough people discount the fact that a lot of people have been saying, the Jets have gotten all these guys, and I know people are saying you can't just say the Jets suck because they're the Jets anymore. Until I see otherwise, I kind of have to roll with that. I know that they've gotten some great talent. I think Uzama is a great ad for them. I think that he'll be great with Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson could take a great step this year. But in general, I don't know. I just don't know how I feel. I think that I'm confident that Bill isn't lying about Mac Jones and saying all this and pumping him up. I think that, if Jones was, being stagnant or just regressing even, I think Bill would just kind of like do one of his mumbled like talks and just talk about like the team always takes steps every year and there's always trials and errors. And, we have to kind of like Bill, but that's what Bill would do. So for Bill to come out and say that he's really impressed with Mac Jones, that really does show something there. I do agree. I think Tyquan Thornton's been looking great in camp. I hope Cole Strange can come together on the O-line for this team. I know there have been some concerns, with the play calls and, who's going to run, the team and do stuff like that. I know, the Pats, I know there were talks that, Bill actually on one of the days for padded practice didn't even have the team out in pads and, essentially had them do a walkthrough because there were some things that, he just did not like. So I think that's something that, you should definitely take, notice of with this team. But, I saw that Mac Jones also lost a ton of weight, which is good. So hopefully it's, good that he lost that weight and it's not like now he's just going to be extremely fragile and, get hurt all of a sudden. I think that he said that he'll put some of it back on before the season starts. So that way, he's not too fragile, but he said that he just wanted to really, get healthy and do some stuff like that, which is good. So yeah, the season's going to rest on Mac Jones. People talk all the time about, the second year for a quarterback. How is it going to affect these guys going forward? If Mac Jones can step up and have, a breakout season similar to maybe what a Josh Allen or someone like them had in their second year. Think about it. Josh Allen, his first year as a quarterback, wasn't very good.
He was okay.
He was okay. But, similar to like a Mac Jones was okay. Mac Jones was, not terrible, but he was serviceable. He was a good quarterback for a rookie. I mean, a lot of people were
better than Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. He was better. Absolutely. He was better.
I mean, I think a fly would have been better than Cam Newton.
Frankly,
I think I could have been better than Cam Newton, and I can't throw a football right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I've
he's back.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of people make comparisons on Mac Jones. I think they've said, the ceiling they could see for him would maybe be a Drew Brees type is what they saw for him potentially. I like that as a potential matchup, as a potential, NFL comp for him. So, it wouldn't be that, Mac Jones turns into Josh Allen, but maybe Mac Jones takes a step in becoming, more of a play type like a Drew Brees. That's something I would really like to see if he could really go and be that type of a guy. And especially getting deep threats, which is something the Patriots traditionally haven't had since Randy Moss. That's great too. Hopefully some of the running backs are able to come up. I've heard some good stuff about the guys that we've drafted. James White, I know, is still taking some time to come back from his hip injury, so that's a concern there. But there are a lot of good things going on with the Pats this year. I think that I think there's a lot of potential for them to, get back into the playoffs. But right now, Buffalo looks like they own the division. So, they're definitely going to have to work their way back. That's where I kind of stand with them. I think that they'll finish second in the AFC East. It's going to be a battle with the Dolphins. I think Tyreek, does change them, but I don't know by how much. Jalen Waddle's a great threat too, but Tyreek definitely will help them win some ball games. Will it be enough to catch the Pats? I'm not entirely sure because Tyreek is still catching the ball. Tyreek is still catching the ball from Tua. That's the thing.
I think I kind of to your point. I think it comes down to the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
it comes down to Matt, who performs better, Mac or Tua.
Yeah, that's what it's going to come down to at this point. I'm confident that Matt can step up. I mean, we've given him, I think that another year with Hunter Henry, I hope that Jonnu Smith can become something closer to what he was with Tennessee. Maybe this 1 year with New England, maybe that 1 year with New England last year was just kind of a fluke, hopefully, but I do have my doubts with that. So, I think that the best case scenario for the Pats this year is finish second in the AFC East. 10-7, 11-6 is where I see this team at. Something we should take for, I think we shouldn't, discount as well, is the fact that if Deshaun Watson does, I believe, serve his suspension, he will not be playing against the Pats. I think it'll be Jacoby Brissett, which is a huge swing in that game for us. So that's also big too. So a lot of great things on the horizon for this team. I'm excited to see what they'll do going forward. But boys, we're officially down to the wire. So we're going to wrap up this show, review of some of the things that we talked about, and send you guys on your way. Obviously, we welcomed in Mr. Josh Houle and Mr. Graysen Mortimer onto the show. Boys, thank you for coming on again.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
I even got a special guest.
Yeah. Yeah. Rambo right there. I like
That's
to see
Rambo.
it.
Yep, that is Rambo. You've learned from my Snapchat streaks.
I have learned from your Snapchat streak. So Graysen, thank you for coming on. Josh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So to wrap things up, we started the show off by paying homage to Bill Russell and Vince Scully, two great men of their craft. I hope that they do rest in peace. In MLB news, we talked about the Boston Red Sox and their confusing MLB trade deadline. We gave our thoughts on Chaim Bloom and the situation going on there, as well as Juan Soto going to the San Diego Padres. We talked about how the Red Sox are kind of becoming the Padres and really the situation with them. Then we jumped over to NFL and talked about Deshaun Watson's 6-game suspension being appealed by the NFL. Watson received that suspension by an independent female judge, and now the NFL will look to get a year-long suspension for the quarterback. And then finally, we wrap things up by talking about the NFL, stripping the Miami Dolphins of their 2023 first-round pick and their 2024 third-round pick for tampering violations involving Tom Brady and Sean Payton. Stephen Ross, the owner, has also been suspended through October 17th. Thank you guys again for watching the show. I really do appreciate it. And from Down the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Graysen Mortimer.
I'm Josh Houle.
We hope you guys have a great day. Take care and peace out.